Hi, my name's Eduardo and he's Jason.
Hello.
Today we'll be discussing The Black Cat, written by Edgar Allan Poe. Jason, I know you went into the biography about Edgar Allan Poe. What can you tell us about him and what influences worked?
Okay, so Edgar Allan Poe life had many difficulty tragedies within them that really influenced his writing, like The Black Cat.
Yes.
I feel like this is very important to note because he was born in Boston, 1809, right?
Yes.
And he lost his father and mother at a very young age, and then he was adopted by the Allen family. That's why his name is Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh.
But he was never actually formally adopted. I found that very interesting because
Wait,
how do you not formally adopt?
so they just took him?
I guess I'm not sure. I just know he wasn't formally adopted by them.
Yes.
Okay. Regardless, his relationship with his father was very confusing because when he was attending school, yes, his father was a wealthy man, but he was still having financial issues and stressing over it.
Yes.
And so he couldn't really pay for school per se. Like, it was just really hard for him and his father. And so that was like a real struggle in his life. Regardless, let's go to his literature career. So he had many various genres, right?
Yes.
Like all about like horror, gothic, psychological thriller, things like that, detective fiction. Just interesting stories overall, which I like the themes of. So he's one of my favorite authors. But another thing was that could relate was that he had personal struggles with substance abuse.
Yes.
So like alcohol, and this would lead to him developing alcoholism, which is then shown through the story with the Black Cat, as you see him drinking.
Yes.
And hallucinating, like the cat. Like,
Yeah.
It's just weird. It could all be hallucination, to be honest.
Yeah.
And another thing I like to say was the demons in the story, such as guilt and madness, which we see throughout. And this could be a representation of his life and the loss of his life, like of his mother and father. And this could show the extreme actions he commits towards his wife and the pet, both being very violent.
Yes.
And that just reflects his own persona. And another notable theme that's a constant theme in all his stories, like the Minister Black Veil, right?
Yeah, the Minister's Black Veil.
And he wrote that, right?
No, that was Nathaniel Hawthorne.
Oh, what else did he write? There's some other book he wrote, but there's all a constant theme between them, and that's death. And that was because of the loss of his wife in 1847, I believe, in Virginia. And it's just all these stories could be just a reflection of his mental state in general.
I see. That's very interesting. So tragic events is what influenced them.
Yeah. Regardless, I know you went into the symbolism of the story, such as like your own perspective. I want to hear more about that because I didn't really like go into my personal symbolism, so I want to see what you had in mind.
All right. So The Black Cat, written by Edgar Allan Poe, is actually really rich with symbolism. So the black cat itself could be a manifestation of the narrator's guilt. Its perseverance is a constant reminder of his past actions and the horrible acts of violence he commits, which drove him into madness. In addition, the Black Cat could also symbolize the narrator's loss of innocence, because as you know, at the beginning of the story, he loves the cat. He feels warm around it. He gives it love. He doesn't abuse it. He doesn't do anything bad to it. He loves it. But as the story progresses, he becomes violent towards it, eventually cutting his eye out and then killing it, which could represent, of course, his loss of innocence.
Did he actually kill the cat? That's something I've always wondered, because I know the cat was meowing in the wall, and you will talk about that in a minute, but just like, so does he really kill the cat, or is just...
No, yeah, he kills because there's two cats. There's the Black Cat and that one he cuts his eye out and then he kills him. And then the other one was a cat that had like a white stripe on his chest. That one he doesn't kill, but he kills the first one. And that I'm talking about the first, the black cat. That's the one that represents his loss of innocence.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and so also actually him, the cat having one eye cut off actually symbolizes another thing. That symbolizes it reflects the narrator's it reflects his distorted vision, his distorted moral vision, because as this story at first he has actual morals. He's not abusive towards anything, but of course as the story progresses, he becomes more abusive, more violent, which represents him like losing his moral values. And that could be represented, that could be symbolized with the cat getting his eye cut off. He cutting off his eye. And the narrator's home is actually a symbol itself. It symbolizes his inner state in his mind. So at first, the house is, a normal house, a house where they're comfortable. But of course, later in the story, the house becomes, it even burns out. It burns down. It becomes sinister, dark, which reflects which shows the darkness within the narrator's soul as the story continues. And I also want to talk about the wall itself in the story. So like later, he kills his wife, right? And he puts the body of the wife into the wall. And that could actually symbolize him. That could symbolize him to attempting to bury his guilt. Of course, though, the cat would meow, and then the police would come in and find out that he has his wife stuck in the wall. And that cat meowing could actually symbolize it could symbolize that his guilt cannot be ignored and it cannot be hidden. It'll always be present. And lastly, the police. The police, they symbolize justice and the consequence of the narrator's actions. And that's all I gotta say about that.
I apologize. Okay, wait. So, the white cat, right? You said it's meowed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Back to the wall thing. So, could it all be a hallucination of the white cat? Does the white cat even exist? In your perspective, I like to hear in your perspective.
Does the black cat with the white stripe exist?
Yeah.
I mean, it has to exist because how else would he would have been caught?
But wouldn't the cat have died due to the lack of oxygen?
Yes, that's true. But I believe he actually did exist. But
And what led you to that conclusion?
To him existing?
Yeah. Because I see it as something else completely.
More
of a way to cope as he's hallucinating with the alcohol. You know how that's a thing you see. I just feel like he's seeing things. I don't think the cat actually exists.
Really? That's interesting. Oh, I'm not sure, but I do believe a cat exists, and it's just it just serves as a reminder of what he did to the other black cat. Yeah.
I feel like just because he found that cat, and it's somewhat similar to his other cat, that's why I find it like a hallucination.
Yeah, that's an interesting take.
But maybe that's just me.
Yes.
Alright. Okay, so I know you went into the many themes that are in the black cat, right? As I think
yes.
I told you to do that part.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really went into it. I did touch on it a little bit,
yes.
as death and things and substance abuse.
Yes.
But I like just to hear your point of view since you did more research.
All right. I'll do just that. So many themes are present in the black cat. So one of the main ones is guilt and consciousness. The narrator experiences extreme guilt over hurting the black cat throughout the story and for the violent action he commits. And which is very interesting because you'd think someone that has does these horrible actions would feel no remorse, but he does. He states it, he thinks about it, and he actually feels guilty. And but however, another theme that I found was man's descent into insanity. So the narrator is aware of his alcoholism and temper. He's aware of these two, and he's aware that it's hurting others. Despite those facts, he keeps on abusing his wife and animals, further contributing into his descent into madness. So the narrator knows what he's doing is wrong, but he still does it, which is very interesting because he knows it's wrong, but he likes the idea that it's wrong, and that's why he does it. And I believe that's very unhealthy, and obviously he needs like help from people to get off that mindset. And yeah, and he would even start blaming it. He not only that, he knows it's wrong, but like he would even start blaming it on the spirit of perverseness. So like the supernatural ideas, he'll blame it on other stuff as well.
So you think this is like some sort of coping mechanism of his?
Maybe,
Because
but
I know people who take like drugs,
Yeah.
like the reason why they do, even though they know it's bad for them, is because they feel an adrenaline rush or
Yes.
some way to cope with loss. So you think that could be similar?
I mean that's true. Yeah, it may be because yeah, he knows it's wrong and he still does it, and yeah, maybe he just likes the thrill and adrenaline of it.
Because I know in the end of the story he gets like really cocky.
Yeah, he
Like,
gets cocky. Yeah.
So maybe that could be the adrenaline he's feeling, you know?
That's true. That's true. Yeah, he's like he starts mocking the police, right? He's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, these walls."
Which in the end gets him caught.
Yeah, yeah, he gets cocky and everything, and yeah, I can see that.
I'm just seeing how it just like relates to modern time, you know?
Yeah, I can see that. And so to get to my third theme that I found is the adverse effects of alcoholism. You mentioned how the author himself had to deal with problems with alcohol, right?
Yeah.
So like that could be probably like a self-insertion. Like he's putting the problems that he had into the narrator, and it could be, and it's a theme because he's trying to like maybe like teach a lesson of it, because like although alcohol is not stated as the primary reason he does these acts of violence, it is implied that it contributed to it. And so maybe like the author wants to show like the dangers of alcoholism because he's been through it, and now he wants to tell us the story of a character that's going through it.
So like a warning.
Yeah, like a warning. So
Yeah.
that's what I got from it. And now the last theme that I found, I like to call it the divide itself. So the theme is present throughout the story because the narrator doesn't know what he wants. He's confused. He killed his cat, then he desired another one. He felt terrible for his wife, then he killed her without a second thought. And throughout the story, he just goes in between this mindset of sanity and insanity. There is no in between. He just goes between these two.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So Jason, I know you went through you researched the historical context of the story. Like you saw what was going on throughout that time period that when Edgar Allan Poe wrote it. So what do you think influenced his writing that was going on during when the time he wrote it?
Okay, before I go to the part where I did research,
Yes.
Let's talk up to my personal thinking. That was the Animal Welfare Act that was established in the 19th century, the late 19th century, I believe, like the 57th or something.
Yes.
And which was supposed to prevent animal cruelty within laboratories, zoos, and things like that.
Yes.
But I think this reflects on how the modern reader would interpret the story, as it's seen as very cruel and violent.
Yes.
But this was more normalized back then, as you see like elephants or like things get whipped when it didn't do the action it was given.
Yes.
So I think it was more normalized in Poe's time. And so the Animal Welfare Act really wasn't, let's say, I feel like it really affects the story and how the reader interprets it. Also, I know there was a social movement going on,
Yes.
and so for this, and it was being founded at near Poe's time. So this could also had influenced him to write about a black cat specifically
I
and
see.
animal abuse.
Mm.
And to get more into the research part, I know there was a growing interest in psychology,
Yes.
and I feel like phrenology is one that he uses, in which is not one he uses, but it's like an example because it's like a very complex psychology term.
Mm-hmm.
And so this relates to the physical characteristics of someone and how it can be related to the mental disorders, right?
Yes.
It's just an example. So all these new discoveries of, let's say, psychology,
Yeah.
I think he uses them to go more in depth into the character, bringing more realism to it. As you feel like you are the character yourself, and you can like see all these vivid things he's also saying.
Yes.
Like when I read this story, I personally felt like I was reading a story about like someone I know about. It really just gives a great depiction of it.
I understand. Yeah, that
And-
makes sense because like it's like, so he uses what was going on, like the new discoveries of psychology,
Yeah.
for his story to make it like a deeper.
Yeah, like more of the psychological thriller theme. And so
Ah.
like all this whole madness thing, it was like I felt like it was very genius
Yes.
for him. And I just found it very interesting in how he wrote this. Regardless, another thing that I like to say was dark romance. So I know dark romance played a big role in this because as you saw with his wife, he was very abusive and stuff. And this challenged the view of transitionalists.
Yeah.
Transitionalists.
Yeah.
And this was also a movement that happened in the 18th century, but it was still going on during the 19th century. And so this was the opposite of dark romance, which it was about regular romance, love, happy, joy.
Yes. Yes.
While dark romance is the complete opposite. And that's what Edgar Allan Poe writes about, challenging their views. So I also found that very interesting. It's something I never thought about. I didn't even know it was a thing.
So there was like a whole era of dark romance.
Not a whole era. It was more a whole era of transitionalists of regular romance. But Edgar Allan Poe wanted to oppose it and challenge that view.
Oh, I see. That's wow.
Okay, so I know you wrote about the themes like relating to like other American literature books, such as The Minister Black Veil, The Yellow Wallpaper, and The Lullaby. And I just want you to dive more into that.
All right, yeah, I will. So the Black Cat has many themes similar to other short stories in American literature and other books. Not only themes, but elements like of the story as well. So, for example, the Black Cat and the Minister's Black Veil. The Minister's Black Veil was written by Nathaniel Hawthorne. They both delve into themes of guilt and themes of guilt. So Hawthorne's story uses the veil as a symbol of like secret sin, because in the Minister's Black Veil, the minister uses the black veil to conceal what horrible action he did, which is unknown, or it's even unknown that if he ever did anything, but like he uses that to like basically hide his guilt. And I thought that was a good parallel to the Black Cat, because the Black Cat so the Black Cat, in the story of the Black Cat, uses it manifests the narrator's internal guilt. And then additionally, the character in the yellow wallpaper, the main character, so like she is always trapped between this yellow wallpaper, right? And as she's trapped in there, she starts to like see this woman trapped in it in the yellow wallpaper as well. So that's her mental health deteriorating, which is similar to how the mental health is deteriorating. The protagonist of the Black Cat, how his mental health is deteriorating as well, due to his like violent acts and basically psychopathic tendencies, right? So they both the characters in the yellow wallpaper and the Black Cat both have their mental health deteriorating, And lastly, the protagonist of The Black Cat and the protagonist of Lullaby by Leslie Silko, they both have profound loneliness. So, in the Lullaby, Aya, she faces cultural appropriation because she's a Native American woman that got her children taken away from her by uh, doctors and government officials just because they had tuberculosis. Of course, we know that's probably not true. It was probably to put them in a boarding school for Native Americans, but that's besides the point. What I'm saying is that she lost everything and she experienced profound loneliness. Meanwhile, the main character of The Black Cat, he experiences loneliness through his psychological decline. And Jason, I know you studied. I know you took a semester of.
Wait, before we do that, there's something I'd like to say. And
Yeah.
that's for the Mrs. Black Veil.
Yeah, of course.
I know that you included demons in it, and I talked about demons as well, such as guilt and madness. You think they can relate somehow?
So, like, demons. You mean like what he's facing?
Yeah, like the sins, the 7 sins.
Oh, the 7 sins. Okay, like from Christianity, right? The 7
Yeah.
deadly sins. Well, I wouldn't say he's the guy from the Black Veil did one of the 7 deadly sins, because like it's implied that he did do something wrong, but we don't know what he did. Well, maybe he actually did though, because like I heard that there's another interpretation that the minister actually had his way, like sexually harassed a woman, something like that.
Yeah.
And like that could be the sin of lust and everything, and then he feels guilty because of it, and now he wears the black veil.
So they both have guilt.
Yeah, they both have guilt, and they're both like both their guilt was set because of the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah.
How like
Because of what they committed.
yeah, because of they were committed. So like the main character, the Black Cat, he was like wrathful, like he had violent tendencies, and who did he inflict it upon? His loved ones.
Another thing I like to say that I find interesting is that how you talked about in Lullaby, how like the isolation led to the mother and like the father. I know when we read the Lullaby,
Yeah.
the father also went into alcoholism
Yes.
as a way to cope.
Yeah.
So you think that's something like the isolation of him could also have like in the Black Cat has also led to the reason why he went to alcoholism?
So his isolation led to alcoholism?
Yeah, because like from Lullaby, it happened with the father, right?
Yeah.
And so like,
Chocolate,
you think the same thing could be because of the Black Cat? Like maybe he just was lonely.
Maybe he was like that. Because, well, it's also implied that he was already doing it, alcoholism, but I'm not sure. Either way, they both used, Chaco, I think
Yeah.
that was his name, the father of the Lullaby and the Lullaby. And they both used it as coping mechanisms, right?
Yeah.
So, like, they're both similar in that fashion.
It's just the way they treated their wives was clearly different.
Yeah, very different. Yes.
Okay, so you can resume what you were gonna say before.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I was about to say that. Oh yeah, I know you taking a semester at Dallas College of Psychology. So can you relate anything from what you learned from the psychology class to the main character in The Black Cat? Because we both know, like, the narrator goes through has extreme mental, like, health
Issues.
problems and
Yeah.
issues. So, like, can you tell us anything about that?
Yeah, of course. Okay, so as someone who's taking psychology, I remember very vivid information, and I saw the mental issues and problems he was developing throughout the stories and the complexities of it.
Yes.
Of course, this was a new era of time, like I said before, but some of them are not even used anymore today, as their time was very different from ours, and it was just all theories.
Yes.
But I did see some that can be present in today's era, such as antisocial personality disorder.
I
What
see.
this is a disregard for someone's morals. So like a lack of empathy or guilt they feel towards someone. So like I could like hit a child and feel no guilt for it, right?
Yeah.
And that would be part of the disorder. And so the reason why someone can have this can be due to the immense loss of his life. And we don't know what the narrative went into the past tragedies, right?
Yeah.
So it's all a mystery. We don't know, but from what I can infer as like someone who's taken psychology, it could be because of massive loss in his life to the
Massive
point
loss.
where he just doesn't care anymore. He's just trying to find a coping mechanism that can help him with this tragedy that he's going through. Another one that I like to talk about is cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
What this is conflicting attitudes going against each other. I know you talked about this and you saw it even as someone who didn't take psychology.
Yeah.
But it's like when when you have two feelings towards someone, so it can be both love and anger towards them, such as his wife and the cat. As he did feel empathy for her for a little bit, like very little, and then just killed it right after.
Yes.
And just stuffed her in a wall. And, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
And
It's very extreme.
yeah, yeah, it's just it's very cool. And so you also saw this with his pet as well, and it's just
I think that one is very present.
Yeah.
Especially, I think that's actually what he has, to be honest.
yeah.
Yeah, because like it's just insane. Like his switch up is insane. He's regretting it, feeling sad over it, and then he just does something else.
And that's why I believe cognitive dissonance is the one he has mainly, because it's like you said, he rose in a boat between sanity and insanity.
Yes.
And he's just always going through both attitudes.
Yes.
And we don't know the future of the story, so he could still feel guilt in the future for this.
Yes.
Or like miss them, or get remarried. It's all just a mystery.
I mean, I think he's just gonna stay in jail.
Who knows? Maybe they get a life sentence.
Yeah, but
Regardless, he will have two conflicting attitudes of the moment he did it. Regardless, the other psychological things he does are very like simple, not really complex, and that's just mental degradation due to loss. And this really shows how he definitely lost someone in the past. But I feel like some noticeable impacts are impacts of stress, which can lead to alcoholism, which
Yes.
he clearly has, and is using it as a coping method. But this then again brings him to his violent actions that he commits, or possibly hurting the ones around him, like his wife. My grandpa did deal with this, so I do know some about it.
yes.
And it definitely could be the abuse part. The reason why he abuses his wife and pets could be because of alcohol. So if he did blame it on the alcohol, I could see why it would make sense.
Yes.
But like I said, it's just a bad way to cope with something.
Yeah, alcohol. Yeah.
It's just definitely not the way to go. Regardless, the other one is just psychological conflict within the brain. And it just really depends on how you see it as someone who's taken psychology. It can be interpreted as many ways, right? And since I remember very little, it's very hard to give my own personal feedback on it. But I did tell you some things that he has, or possibly has, or gone through in his life that could affect this. But I hope it just made it more clear.
Yeah, I have a question. Would you consider the narrator a psychopath, like a true psychopath?
A true psychopath.
Yeah, like
The things I
yeah.
named, I feel like true psychopath. Yeah, he'll be classified as a true psychopath, but I feel like he has his reasons. You know what I mean?
He has his reasons.
Because as we saw, he's going through mental degradation. He's committing violent acts, bipolarness. He feels no remorse, no guilt, no empathy. Very little if he does feel any. And this is signs of a psychopath, right? It's
Yeah.
just these violent tendencies that someone does. He even almost got away with it, being cocky at it. with
Yes.
the cops, which really shows that he's a psychopath.
Yeah.
But and he killed 2 pets.
He killed 2 pets and then his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the repetitive action of killing 2 pets just shows on how he doesn't have remorse. And the reason why I say he might have a reason for it is because, like I said, past tragedies do affect someone in the disorders for the psychological things they go through. So he might have gone through some traumatic things as a kid, the narrator, not the author, the narrator.
Yeah.
And this could be the reason why he became a psychopath. So he may have his reasons. But I wouldn't, he's definitely a psychopath though.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but he probably has a reason for it.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Regardless, I think that'd be it for today. Would you like to add anything else?
Well, this was a very insightful and detailed discussion. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot about this story, about Edgar Allan Poe, and even like psychology. So thank you for that,
Yeah.
and thank you for joining me.
Yeah. All right. Let me rephrase what I said before. I know I mistakenly said he killed two pets. I mean, he killed the first pet, but he attempted to kill the second pet once again.
Yes.
But he actually killed his wife, right?
Yeah,
Is
he
that-
killed his wife.